How awesome is it to max out your luck? This male lead just sprayed a golden slime to death with insecticide. It unexpectedly, he dropped an SSR-level Valkyrie servant card. You know the value of this god-level companion card is as high as 1 billion. If exchanged for money, the male lead can live a luxurious life for the rest of his life. However, in order to become the hero who clears the maze, he resolutely used the card. Then with a gust of wind, a huge Valkyrie appeared in front of the male lead. Looking at this scene with full special effects, the male lead thought he would turn things around and reach the peak of life. The male lead is just an ordinary high school student. His only hobby is exploring the underground, but because of his strength and wallet, so in the 2.5 years of being an adventurer, he could only use cheap pesticides as weapons. He relied on the toxicity of the insecticide to poison slimes. Just now, the male lead finally killed the 999th slime in his life, seeing that he was only one away from only one more. So he was going to find the most special slime to commemorate his 2.5 years of efforts. It was such a coincidence. He happened to find a golden one not far away. Although the panel attributes of this guy, all of which are question marks, but the male protagonist didn't take these seriously, because for him, no matter what color the slime is, was no match for the insecticide. However, he didn't know that this slime is not simple. However, when the male protagonist was showing off, he suddenly realized that his level not only did not increase, but even the achievement of killing 1,000 slimes has not been achieved. Although he was a little regretful, what he cares more about is this golden slime, whether it can explode valuable items. Looking at this never-before-seen golden card, the male lead couldn't tell where it was valuable, but the attributes of the card are very powerful. The type is Valkyrie, and her name is Hilfi. It sounds so cool and invincible. And if there is no accident, this card must be the legendary servant card. To be on the safe side, the male protagonist took the opportunity to sell slime cores. He asked the receptionist about the price of the servant card. He didn't know until he asked. He was shocked. Unexpectedly, this type of card is worth 1 billion. And it's also a kind of card that is priceless, and even can't be bought with money. The male lead didn't expect the card to be so valuable. If he sold it, he could become a billionaire overnight. He could not only buy new equipment and weapons, but also have the confidence. He could confess to the long-loved school beauty. But he didn't know that after he turned around, the school beauty also noticed the passing figure. When he got home, the male lead has been thinking about the use of the card. If he chooses to summon, he might become stronger. It turns out that the male lead and his best friend had been to the 2nd floor. The goblins they met at that time almost made them shit their pants. So since then, he never dared to go to the 2nd floor again. The next day, when the male lead was going to school, he happened to meet the school beauty he had a crush on. So they went to school together. But the school beauty was so beautiful. Along the way, both adults and children were deeply attracted. Seeing this, the inferior male protagonist deliberately kept distance, and Guching followed him to slow down. Curiously asked where he went last night, the male lead instinctively wanted to say he went to the maze, but then he lied that he was with his best friend. Coincidentally, his best friend suddenly appeared, worried about being exposed. The male protagonist quickly pulled his best friend aside. The three of them gave a joint account. This made Guching feel something was wrong. So he asked them what they did at the party yesterday. But the male lead said they went to the movies, while the other two said they went to karaoke and bowling, which made Guching very unhappy. He thought the male lead must have gone to the maze again. But after the male lead's repeated quibbling, Guching still chose to believe his lies. When they arrived at school, the male lead asked his best friend what they would do if they got a rare follower card. However, they all agreed that it was better to sell it. After all, even if they win the lottery, they may not have so much money. Not to mention, the probability of winning the lottery is higher than that. Although his friend's words made sense, the male lead still couldn't make a decision until he saw the back of his goddess. He secretly made up his mind. So that night, the male lead came to the labyrinth again. But this time, he didn't come to hunt slimes, but to avoid the monitor, to find a place where no one was. to use this rare card. After weighing the pros and cons, he finally decided to follow his heart. After all, compared to 1 billion, he preferred to be a warrior in the labyrinth. So with the activation of the magic circle, the male lead immediately began the summoning ceremony of the rare card. In an instant, a oppressive angel appeared in front of him. But just as the male lead thought, he could finally reach the peak of his life. But when he came to his senses, he suddenly realized something was wrong. Oh, it don't daddy. Although his 1 billion Valkyrie turned into a little girl, the male lead quickly accepted the reality, because he found that this little Valkyrie was not as useless as he thought. She can not only lock on the surrounding monsters, and even in her young version, her strength is still amazing. However, when the male protagonist was surprised, the little god suddenly became hesitant. He made a request to him, because he was really hungry. He wanted to eat the core of the slime. Although, the male protagonist generously fed the core to the little god, but seeing the little god of war's happy look, he felt uncomfortable. After all, the most valuable thing on a monster is the core. If he feeds it every time, it definitely won't work. Otherwise, he might not even be able to afford pesticides. So, adhering to the concept of sustainable development, the male protagonist only let the little god to locate the coordinates of the slime, while he himself was responsible for using pesticides to deal with them. The efficiency of this method was not only increased dozens of times, but also increased the male lead's level, directly from level 3 to level 4. And he also got the title of Slime Killer, which can increase the ability value by 50%. And this title can only be obtained by killing. Reaches more than 1,000, can get it. Although it's useless. Then the male protagonist went to sell the magic box as usual. The receptionist was shocked. She was surprised that the male lead brought so many back, and also broke the historical record of killing slimes. In just one day, he earned a month's living expenses in one day. At night, the male lead couldn't help recalling. He and Gucheng were childhood sweethearts. When they were kids, they watched live streams together. Gucheng's father is the captain of the exploration team. He had explored to the 36th floor of the maze, and now he decides to enter the 37th floor. And he was determined to uncover the truth. It was also because of Gucheng's father's heroic appearance that made the male lead's heart buried with the seed. The seed of becoming an explorer was planted. The male lead prepares to conquer the second floor. Although he was scared by the goblins before, but now with the help of the little Valkyrie, the mere goblins are no match for him. The boy never expected that. The Valkyrie he accidentally obtained not only has the power to kill gods and ghosts, but also has an additional luck bonus. Just by killing a skeleton, he could get an item worth 2 million. And this is not the most outrageous thing. As a Valkyrie of the god system, he found another one for the male protagonist. A demon succubus. What could he do? The male protagonist had to reluctantly accept it. Zhigan. Just now, the male protagonist finally plucked up the courage to enter. But when he remembered the shadow of being beaten by goblins, he couldn't help shaking his legs. There is a little Valkyrie by his side to soothe him. Soon, the little Valkyrie found a goblin on the second floor. But unexpectedly, the male lead just left without looking back, saying he suddenly remembered that he still had clothes to collect. But when he thought of his idol, didn't he say he wanted to be like him? From a passerby to a hero? So the male protagonist encouraged himself. After calming down, the male lead asked the little Valkyrie to cover him and use his ultimate move if things go wrong. This is a bit awkward. Unexpectedly, a goblin could be evenly matched with him. However, what the male protagonist didn't expect was that the goblin could even catch the blade with his bare hands. The male lead was completely confused, but fortunately in a hurry, he quickly took out the insecticide. After blinding the goblin, he picked up the weapon on the ground and charged at the goblin. But unexpectedly he was tripped by it. But it was a blessing in disguise. He directly killed the goblin. He picked up the weapon on the ground. But what is this? After completing the kill, the male lead shed tears. The goblin that had beaten him up before was finally defeated. While he was excited, another good news came, that his level had finally risen to level 5. You know, the male lead had to fight thousands of slimes to level up. Unexpectedly, just a goblin made him level up. And he also gained a temporary skill, Goblin Slayer. Its effect is that when fighting goblins, all attributes increase by 10%. As for why it's provisional, it's because the way he won was too clumsy. The effect is much weaker than the original 10%. Then, under the protection of the little Valkyrie's shield, the male protagonist used the same method. He killed 4 goblins in a row, and his level rose to 6. To reward the little Valkyrie, before leaving, he fed the little Valkyrie a magic box. He took the rest to the guild front desk for money. In the next few days, as soon as he got out of school, he would go to the maze. But because of the intense training, he was always listless during the day's classes. But fortunately, the level finally broke through a single digit. But one thing is strange. All of his attributes have increased abnormally. It was also at this time he found a blessing of the gods on the panel. The wearer of this title will gain additional ability points when leveling up. And additional attributes depends on his favorability with the god. Seeing this, the male lead finally realized the value of 1 billion. This is simply an external skill. Haha. Then the two continued to explore. With the cheat on, once again encountered a rare monster. The battle method was the same, with the little Gajankaila barrier, while the male lead attacked with his newly purchased equipment. However, unfortunately, the blood bar of the skeleton soldier was thicker than he thought. He asked the little god to use the godly thunder. Sure enough, just one strike killed the skeleton soldier. Unfortunately, the thing that exploded was just a different colored box, which didn't look like a rare item. Xiaowushan was hungry after using skills continuously, so the male lead fed the box to the little god of war. But he was still curious about the value of the red box, so he went to ask the front desk lady again. But this question, his heart was completely broken. The value of the red box was at least 2 million, although he lost millions of gold coins. But after all, the credit belonged to the little god. Thinking of this, the male lead was relieved. Considering the help of the little god of war, he planned to continue exploring the 3rd floor. But before that, he also needs to strengthen his own exercise, so that he wouldn't be a burden to the little god of war. However, the male lead obviously overestimated himself. He was beaten up again when he fought the goblin alone. And he also found that even the most common recovery, the potion, is ridiculously expensive. To be fully prepared for the 3rd floor, he must go back to the 1st floor to store more potions. After several days of hard work, the male protagonist has gained a lot. Now he can not only get new equipment, but also enough for the little god to eat for a long time. At this moment, the little god of war sensed an unusual aura. He looked in the direction. The male protagonist found a rare silver slime again. Then the two cooperated with each other and quickly completed the kill. And the slime, it gave the male protagonist another rare card. However, when he saw the card in the male lead's hand, Xiaowushan showed a feeling of unease. But the male protagonist didn't think so much, because the card that was dropped this time was different from the Valkyrie of the little lowly, but a demon system card. Although summoning demons may bring bad luck, but he thought that he could have both a god and a demon. What's the harm? It's too lonely. The male lead never thought that. The generous slime gave him another demon servant card. As he threw the card out, a charming female demon appeared in the air. However, this shocking scene gave the male lead an ominous feeling. Sure enough, the next second, a little girl less than 1 meter tall appeared in front of him. Seeing this, the male protagonist was convinced. Why does the buyer's show always differ from the seller's show? The mature woman was turned into a lowly, and Lucifer is a very mean little devil. She mocked him for not looking smart. Hearing this, Shirley was a little dissatisfied. He thought that Lucilia shouldn't talk to the male lead like that. But she didn't know that this was the characteristic of demons. Although her words were harsh, but she didn't mean it. Seeing that Shirley accepted this explanation, she accepted it without thinking. The male lead took the opportunity to introduce the two girls. But unexpectedly, Lucilia had just come out and hadn't done anything yet. She turned around and asked the male lead for food. Shirley suddenly appeared behind. She sensed the slime's breath. And this is just right. Allow the male lead to test Lucilia's strength. The male lead didn't expect this little devil to be so difficult. So in order to save resources, he took Lucia to the second floor of the basement and let her try his second skill, erosion breath. In just a blink of an eye, the goblins were instantly melted into ashes. Under this cruel scene, Shirley didn't even dare to open her eyes. When the magic box entered Lucilia's stomach again, the male protagonist, whose strength has greatly increased, he finally stepped into the third floor of the maze. For this, he specially prepared a new weapon. However, the monsters here have changed from solitary to gregarious. So the male lead didn't dare to be too reckless. He wanted to sneak attack and kill one first. But his strength was too bad. The crossbow arrow actually passed by the hellhound's head. But thanks to Shirley's timely barrier, he managed to save his life. I don't know that I'll stop, you'll be in your garage. After the male lead's assurance, Lucilia's work efficiency has improved significantly. But strangely, at the end of the day, the male lead didn't gain much. After all, he gave the rune medicine to 2 little girls. And even Lucilia ate several times more than Shirley. So over time, Shirley obviously had a little emotion. At first, the male lead didn't pay attention. But after watching a love drama on TV, he instantly understood something. So the next day, the male lead summoned Shirley alone and encouraged her to speak her true mind. After several rounds of pulling, when pushed to the wall, Shirley said that she wanted the same treatment as Lucy. Obviously, he had been accompanying the male lead before. But now, he not only had fewer chances to talk to the male lead, but even the magic box was given priority to Lucy. When Yen, the male lead, finally understood that Zirfei was jealous, so he promised to treat them equally in the future. And in addition to distributing the magic box equally, he would also praise Zirfei for her role in the battle just now. Suna doesn't do it to me. Suna does it not to me, this Sunagudo. I don't even have a place in my heart. Ahahaha. What is love's sharpness? After resolving the conflict within the team, the male lead unexpectedly found that Sylphie has been promoted from level 1 to level 2. Not only did his stats increase significantly, her godly lightning strike, but also reached the intensity of killing 3 monsters. On the contrary, Sylphie's appetite after leveling up is surprisingly huge. After several calculations, the male lead found that he earned even less. In desperation, he had to go back to the first floor. He hoped that his old friends here can provide him with enough food. With the help of Shirley, the male protagonist discovered a special slime again. Seeing this scene, he was excited. Without a surprise, there should be another little loli in the team. It turns out that this so-called magic orb is for humans to learn magic. For such a good thing, the male protagonist would not let it go. Following the instructions, he directly smashed the orb onto the ground. With a flash of blue light, he finally learned his first magic spell, Water Ball technique, and then, to test the power of the new move, the male lead went to the 3rd floor. To be safe, he asked Hilfi to unfold the passport and commanded Lucia to be ready to help. After all preparations were done, the male lead began his performance. Sure enough, even with magic, he was still a deadbeat who relied on women. At this time, Lucia also decisively took action. Seeing that he effortlessly destroyed the hound, the male lead's mood also fell to the bottom. Mom, hello. Okay. The boy never expected that. The Valkyrie he accidentally obtained not only has the power to destroy the sky and the earth, but also has an amazing luck bonus. Just by killing a slime, it dropped a rare item, and he could find hidden dungeons by just exploring. After helping the male protagonist catch a wild succubus, he found a blue slime for the male lead. After defeating it, the male lead gained a water magic, although the power released is not even a scratch. But the good thing is that he doesn't need to drink water. And the male lead also discovered another use. By changing the shape of the water ball, it can be used to block the mouth and nose, to suffocate the monster to death. But unfortunately, the monster killed on the 3rd floor. It's hard for the male lead's level to improve again, so he decided to go to the 4th floor. He bought the combat suit he had been longing for. This clothes, which ensures that he will not be pierced by sharp objects. And it also comes with a bracelet that enhances magic. However, this combat suit cannot be tried on before purchase. Only through actual combat can he know its authenticity. Hearing this, Lucia understood. The male lead is unreliable at all. 看来, the fourth floor depends on his and Sherfy's performance. Unlike the first 3 floors, there are green plants everywhere. As soon as Sherfy entered, he sensed an ominous aura. When the male lead reacted, they had already killed through the 4th floor. After finally catching up with them, and almost got killed by mistake, seeing it was the male lead, Sherfy burst into tears. Although she was scared, she still apologized to the male lead. As a servant, he shouldn't have left his master and run away. Unlike the arrogant Lucelia, she just doesn't admit that she is afraid of bugs. Thanks to their rampage, the male lead picked up a lot of gears along the way, but the taste was surprisingly bad. Since they reached the 5th floor, the male protagonist began to explore. Soon they discovered 2 monsters, but unfortunately, the male lead's physical attacks were ineffective. Finally, Shirley needed to deploy a barrier, and then let Lucia cooperate with the output. Although they successfully killed the monster this time, it also means that Lucelia would have to take action next. But the 2 girls scoffed at the food the male lead disdain, so the male lead had to choose to fight again next time. However, on their way back, they found Shirley standing in front of a wall in a daze. After asking, they learned that she felt an unusual magic on the wall. But when they asked Lucelia, she didn't feel anything. Moreover, the male lead didn't find anything special after investigation. What happened? But the unknown always makes people curious. But Shirley directly cast a godly lightning strike, blasting a hole through the wall. But the male protagonist panicked when he saw this. Would he be accused of damaging public property? But the unknown always makes people curious. So the 3 of them walked inside. But the male lead knew that this situation was usually dangerous. But just as he was about to warn them, Lucelia stepped on a trap. What's more outrageous is that the arrow was shot at him. Fortunately, the protective suit was genuine, so the male lead's life was saved. But the pain he suffered was inevitable, so the male lead reminded them to be careful again. Oh my god. It was a narrow escape. Soon, the 3 of them also arrived at the boss room. But it seems that some special props are needed to open it. But this was nothing for Hilfy. He blew the door open with a backhand. When they got closer, they saw 2 special monsters. Even the system couldn't detect their attributes. But they had to bite the bullet and go ahead. So the male lead asked the left and right guardians to deal with ogres. But unexpectedly, their combined attack couldn't hurt the ogre. The male lead guessed that the skills might be ineffective. Fortunately, Sherfy's barrier can still block the attack. So he assigned tasks to the 2. Let Lucelia deal with the giant slime, and Hilfy stayed to cover him. Because if magic is ineffective, it means his bow and arrow can finally be used. Sure enough, physical attacks worked on the ogre, so the male lead aimed at the vital points. Although the effect was significant, but in order to save money, he didn't buy many arrows at all. He soon ran out of arrows. Finally, he could only pin his hopes on water magic. With the blessing of the bracelet, water condensed into ice. And this trick also worked on the ogre. So the male protagonist conjured a huge ice sword. After 3 consecutive hits to the head, the ogre couldn't hold on and fell down. But Lucifer on the other side was not so lucky, because the slime's soft body can always bounce off attacks. Seeing this, the male protagonist suggested that he should defend. Then, Shirley uses the new skill she learned after upgrading. You wait for 2 thoughts. However, Sherfy's attack didn't completely kill the slime. It was up to the Nanju, the slime killer, knowing that the slime's nemesis is insecticide. So he generously took out the deluxe package. Under the double spray, the slime's health rapidly decreased. Soon it couldn't hold on and fell down. This made the left and right guardians happily hug the male lead. But the fatigue after the battle made the male protagonist unable to enjoy. Fortunately, he had bought recovery potions before. After drinking it, he was fully revived. At this moment, Lucilia's level has been upgraded, and the male lead's level also increased a lot. Then he found that the ogre dropped a rare red magic box. Based on past experience, it might be sold for a good price. Then came the slime. It gave the male protagonist a rare magic sword. It just looks unremarkable. What you said? Stake in my hood. Mocha moke it. He only sold the red magic box. In a short period of time, he has 5 layers of beds, and even got such a big red magic box. This also shocked the front desk lady. And when he learned that the male lead had discovered the hidden maze, her doubts were solved. Obviously luck is the key, but since the box has a special value, it must be evaluated by a professional. So while asking the male lead to wait for news, he also wanted to know whether the male lead would participate in the event next week. It turns out that recently, the official will hold a small team challenge on the 7th floor. The rewards will be very generous. Hearing this, the male lead agreed without hesitation. The reward is secondary. The key is that he really wants to see the battle between experts. But unexpectedly on the same day, the person in his team made him feel familiar. Although he didn't know them, he had heard of them privately. The trio had the strength to challenge the 6th floor, which seemed unattainable to him before. But he had unknowingly reached this level. However, what the male lead didn't know was that the girl who led the group also had an impression of him. After all, there is only one exit from the maze. He had passed by her several times in the past 2 years. She knew Manju was a weak player, but very hardworking. He only has the ability to defeat the first layer slime. So when she saw the male lead here, Daxima died in the game. The man never expected that he could meet 3 girls in his first random team. What he didn't expect was that these 3 girls were rich, which are worth a villa in the real world. Each of them has one. The officer himself has been grinding for 2.5 months. He barely gathered a set of basic equipment, although he looks poor on the surface, but the male lead still hides 2 cards of divine servants. This time, he accompanied the 3 girls to the 7th floor, just to fulfill the guild's mission. He thought this strategy would be very difficult, but the male lead found that he didn't seem to be cheated. The samurai girl is incredibly strong. With her own strength, she can solo the stone golem on the 7th floor. She didn't even have a chance to cover. And after defeating the stone golem, the bronze golem also refreshed immediately. The other 2 girls didn't hold back either. The mage girl uses mud to seal the action of the golem, while the pink-haired girl used her superpowers, summoning her exclusive attendant card. While the wind attracts the attention of the golem, the mage chanted a long magic directly. The male lead felt a little familiar. Isn't this a weakened version of Lucia's magic? The stone golem still had a little health left. The samurai girl gave the final blow. After successfully defeating it, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. But after the bronze golem died, a steel golem will be refreshed behind it. The 2 back rows were almost killed. Fortunately, the male lead fired an arrow to attract attention, and the samurai girl also arrived in time to attract hatred. But the iron golem was too tough. The samurai's attacks couldn't cause any damage, so he asked the mage girl to try magic output. But the result was the same, with no effect. The pink-haired girl also tried it, asking the attendant to use the wind blade attack, but was punched away before getting close. Seeing this, the male lead was going to summon Lucia and Helfi, but he didn't expect that he didn't take out the card. The magic sword he had reported earlier fell to the ground. Through previous research, the male lead knew that the effect of the magic sword can give the object imaginary damage when attacking, so he decided to try the effect of the magic sword. If it doesn't work, he will call them too. While the samurai girl attracts the golem's hatred, the male lead directly circled behind. He stabbed it with a sword. Then he started imagining the scene of the golem being defeated and splitting. As expected, the golem died on the spot. This directly shocked the 3 girls. They never expected that the male lead had such a powerful weapon. After successfully conquering the 7th floor, the 4 returned to the real world to celebrate. The 3 girls recognized the male lead's strength, asking if he would like to team up with them. There is a portal every 5 floors. Their goal? The 11th floor with the 2nd portal. The male lead thought about it. As a passerby character, how could he team up with 3 young ladies? The 3 girls didn't dislike him at all. What's wrong with being ordinary? If he joined them, they would feel at ease. Hearing this, the male lead hesitated. He thought of his two divine servants at home. If he joined the team, he would be exposed. So the male lead said he would reply in a few days. In the afternoon, the male lead returned to the dungeon. He summoned Zilphi and Lacilia to discuss teaming up. The two Lolas were instantly unhappy. Today the male lead showed up. They were angry, but the first thing they said was to team up with others. The male lead wanted to explain, but the request to team up. The two Lolas would not agree no matter what. There was no way, so the male lead had to respect them. The dungeon thing is settled, but in the real world, the male lead still has to date his childhood friend. Fortunately, his childhood sweetheart is easy to deal with. A few compliments can increase her favorability. How is that possible? Ah, so cute. Cute. Wow, so cute. Well, sorry. Wow, so cute. So the male lead was just an AI for a day. Later, the childhood sweetheart took him to go boating together. In this way, the two of them gained each other's favor. But when they were about to go home, Qingmei suddenly took the male lead to the dungeon entrance because her father entered the dungeon when he was a child, never came back. That's why she has always opposed him entering the dungeon. But this only strengthened the male lead's determination. He would definitely conquer this dungeon. Demo. The girl never thought that. This poor boy who just joined the team is actually a hidden master. A 10 billion yuan godlike servant card. He could take out too casually. What he didn't expect was that the hero summoned was the rarest angel and demon form of the servant. The boss that they couldn't beat together. With just the simplest magic. Killed it instantly. It turned out that just now, the male lead agreed to the invitation of 3 girls. Because he didn't want to expose his 2 servant cards. So he learned to attach water magic to the magic sword. With this new skill, the male lead's combat power has directly changed qualitatively. It used to take 2.5 minutes. He could barely defeat the stone golem. Now it's like cutting vegetables. He can easily kill one with just a swing. And the 3 girls didn't just stand around. Each of them defeated a stone golem. Now the 7th floor is no threat to them. Is no longer a threat. So they decided to challenge the 8th floor. But before that, they need to fill their stomachs. The male lead prepares to eat a bento. But unexpectedly, these 3 ladies were outrageous. They directly took out a set of equipment for camping. This made the male lead more convinced that these 3 girls must be rich ladies. Then the 4 of them came to the 8th floor, because they heard that there are water monsters here. So the male lead spent all his recent savings to buy a set of life jackets that are resistant to magic attacks. But unexpectedly, as soon as they entered the 8th floor, they encountered a strong acidic monster. Before his life jacket could work, it turned into air. The male lead was devastated. This was the equipment he earned in 2.5 days. He must teach the stinky lizard a lesson. But before he could do anything, Pink Hair killed the lizard with a crossbow. It turned out that the male lead thought it was useless and gave it to the pink-haired girl. But unexpectedly, the pink-haired girl has design talent. Then the 4 continued to explore the 4th floor. There are many aquatic monsters everywhere. There are not only crabs and hippos, and even squids. The male lead was directly thrown into a pool and shouted for help. This made the samurai girl speechless and said, "Didn't you step on the bottom?" The male protagonist blushed instantly, so he quickly changed the subject to get away. Then a monster suddenly emerged from the water. The male protagonist quickly took out his new rifle and shot it. But there were more than one, and the number is outrageous. They kept emerging from the water. The samurai girl couldn't cut them all. Xiaoguang directly used fireball magic to blow up a piece. There were still too many monsters left. The male lead's rifle ran out of bullets, and they kept emerging. There's no way. The male lead had to take out the magic sword with water magic, and then imitated the samurai girl's way, and kept swinging. This one-hit kill method is really efficient. But the problem is that after cutting, his magic power was directly exhausted. He fainted with his eyes blacking out. When he woke up again, he was already on the knees of the samurai girl. The male lead quickly got up and apologized. He opened the panel and saw. He found that his magic power was suddenly full. The girls said they might have meddled too much. They used magic recovery medicine to treat the male lead. which made the male protagonist a little embarrassed. Because this magic recovery potion in the real world is ridiculously expensive, he usually feels bad about buying the lowest level one. The girls said it's okay. We are teammates, and helping each other is what we should do. And they defeated so many. The magic boxes they got are worth a lot of money. At this time, the pink-haired attendant seemed to have noticed something. He shouted at the water behind them. Sure enough, the next second, a ridiculously large brachiosaurus emerged from the water. This made the male protagonist somewhat unbelievable, because dinosaurs as monsters should appear in a deeper layer. This was obviously not an opponent they could defeat. The girls agreed, so the four of them turned and ran. But unexpectedly, the dinosaur actually walked ashore, and then roared to make the rocks above fall, and blocked the exit to leave. In that case, they had to fight to the death. The male lead asked the pink-haired girl in Xiaoguang, while he goes to the bottom to attract hatred. The highest-level samurai girl was responsible. The three pseudo-Taoists agreed, and immediately split up. Xiaoguang uses his best swamp magic, but it had no effect on the dinosaur. The pink-haired girl summons a demon, and let him use the blade from above, but it couldn't even make the dinosaur's health bar appear. The male lead circles behind it, and attaches water magic to the magic sword. Imagining the scene of the dinosaur being pierced, the male lead stabbed directly, but it seems that the level difference is too big. The magic sword's power was only exerted a little, but it was enough. The dinosaur's hatred was drawn away by the male lead, and directly chased after the male protagonist. The samurai girl took the opportunity to go around, rushing all the way from the dinosaur's tail, and was ready to give the dinosaur a headshot. The dinosaur thought that after this blow, the dinosaur would be seriously injured, but the dinosaur only felt a little pain, and threw the samurai girl on its head out. Seeing this, hurried over to help, but after the two front rows left, the dinosaur directly targeted the pink-haired girl in Xiaoguang. The two girls were very desperate. They must die this time, but they never thought that. The old Six-Ju has been hiding his strength. He directly summoned two OP characters, with a burst of colorful light, which instantly attracted the attention of the audience. Soon they found out that they were the legendary angels and demons. What's even more unbelievable is that they were summoned by the male lead as his servants. And the scene didn't need the male lead to explain what happened. Under this terrifying attack, the dinosaur was directly beaten to ashes. Afterwards, Shirley asked the male lead if he was hurt, while Lucia was a little jealous. Sure enough, the team-up was to find other women. The pink-haired girl rushed over directly. He thanked Zirfei for saving him, and Zirfei's angelic appearance is really cute. As for Xiaoguang, he went to thank Lucilia. He really wanted to touch Lucia's hair, but was rejected on the spot, so he could only act cute and beg. The arrogant Lucilia couldn't resist it, so she agreed. So the scene of the harem on fire didn't happen. Then the pink-haired girl suggested to celebrate their escape. Why not go to the hot spring together? Without giving the male lead a chance to refuse, the pink-haired girl was the first to agree. In this way, the two servants of the male lead became the favorites of three girls. As for the male lead, he was responsible for bathing Xiaoguang's servant. After the hot spring, the two eldest ladies were picked up by their own cars, and the fifth sister was closer, so she walked with the male lead for a while. Because this weekend, his university would open a campus tour event. He asked the male lead, who was still in high school, if he wanted to go together. The male lead was hesitant, so the next day, he asked his best friend if he wanted to go to Wanghua College together. But his best friend said that he shouldn't ask them, but should find someone with the same aspiration. The childhood sweetheart heard the news and came over and volunteered. His best friend directly said the male lead wanted to invite his childhood sweetheart to visit Wanghua College together on the weekend, which made the male lead instantly lose his composure. Wouldn't it cause a fire in the harem? He was about to say it was a misunderstanding, but unexpectedly, the childhood sweetheart said, "So you also plan to go? That's great, let's go together. Hey, one cell go-go, pick it up." The man never expected that. Since he killed the hidden boss in the maze, the three girls in the team have fallen in love with him simultaneously. This sudden development gave the male lead a headache, because today is the day when Wanghua Academy is open to visit. His childhood sweetheart Gucheng also came to visit together. They have the same aspiration, and both wanted to be admitted here. But what the male lead never expected was that the lion dance girl in the team was a senior in the college. She was recognized as soon as she stepped into the school. Fortunately, the lion dance girl had a job in the student council. After a simple greeting, and let the four of them enter the school, he thought the crisis was over. But as soon as they entered the college, they met the other two girls in the team. The two best friends cast envious glances, but his childhood sweetheart was shocked. The male lead was a little strange. Isn't Femao only a sophomore? And Xiaoguang just got into high school. Isn't it a bit too early to visit the university now? Xiaoguang said it was a rare opportunity. He wanted to come and see it while he had time. The male lead began to think how to explain how he met the two female students. After all, the childhood sweethearts hate the maze. If he said he was a teammate in the maze, it would be bad. The two good friends are sensible and prepared to act together. But the pink-haired girl directly said they were happy to team up in the maze before, and exploring with the male lead was interesting. The childhood sweetheart immediately turned black. The male lead felt something was wrong and kept sweating. Fortunately, the lion dance girl finished her work in the student council. After all, the male lead was her guest. As a senior, he must treat him well. However, these words made the childhood sweetheart's heart even colder. Then the four of them went to the cafeteria to eat. The two best friends were shocked. It's not like a school cafeteria, and the dishes here were not something they could afford usually. All of them cost less than 2,000 yen. After eating and drinking, the samurai girl led everyone to visit the college tennis court. There are 6 in total, while the other side is a football field. Along the way, the childhood sweethearts were unhappy. The male lead felt a chill down his spine. But when he wanted to turn around to confirm, he saw Xiaoguang fall down. He subconsciously rushed up to catch Xiaoguang. When he came to his senses, the male lead felt his body was inexplicably relaxed. Could it be because he had leveled up a lot in the maze? Seeing this, Xiaoguang blushed instantly and thanked the male lead. The two best friends were also shocked. The male lead's agility is simply too much. The samurai girl agreed. After all, the male lead's performance in the maze was also so excellent. The pink-haired girl was a little jealous, so she came over and asked, "How long are you going to hold her?" Hearing this, the male lead immediately put down the girl. But at this moment, a football was kicked from the football field behind him. The samurai girl tries to stop it, but she was too short. The ball flew directly to the pink-haired girl behind. The tour was supposed to end here, but the samurai girl suddenly suggested to go to the dojo, because the male lead's rescue just now made her a little moved. So he decided to show off her swordsmanship. After 2.5 minutes of performance, everyone applauded. The male lead said it was really cool, which made the samurai girl blush. She knew why she had been absent-minded recently. The childhood sweetheart saw it all. There are too many competitors, and he didn't know what to do. After the visit, everyone exchanged contact information. On the way back, two best friends were very envious of the male lead, so they also prepared to explore the maze. If they could meet such a cute girl and team up with them, they would be worth it even if they died. However, the two best friends never imagined that, besides the 4 harem girls in reality, in the maze, he could also summon Sylphie and Lucia, these 2 divine servants. But this is also a headache for the male lead. Today, he was flirting with girls in reality, and completely forgot to feed his 2 servants. The boy never thought that his ordinary little devil could turn into the succubus he had been thinking about. When the little devil activates the gluttony skill, it can consume the life of the contractee to restore her true form, and her strength can also be qualitatively improved. The skills she released casually were god-killing. It turns out that not long ago, Lucilia accidentally helped the male protagonist kill a colorful slime, and dropped a magical glove, which can release invisible power by consuming magic power. Simply put, it's like hitting a cow in the air. In terms of the male lead's magic power, it had no effect. But with the magic sword, it can play more tricks. Just then, the trio came over. This time, they agreed to challenge the 9th floor. But in the chat, the male lead ignored the left and right guardians behind him, which made them angry. But it was also a kind of cuteness. Then when exploring, Shurfi sensed a strong enemy ahead. Since there were no other paths to take, they decided to run away if they couldn't beat it. Soon they discovered a giant two-headed dog. But this is very strange. A monster of this level shouldn't appear on the 9th floor. Seeing that the monster was difficult to deal with, they discussed returning to the ground. But the monster also noticed them at this time. So Shirley directly cast a barrier to protect everyone. Then Xiaoguang used magic to limit the monster's movement. Then Lucifer used rock burst to attack. But after the attack they found that the two-headed dog had high fire resistance. A big move didn't cause much damage, although the fire of the two-headed dog couldn't hurt them. But the barrier couldn't withstand the high temperature. So the male lead decided to take the risk as bait, and then let Lucifer take the opportunity to attack from the abdomen. But his personal output was obviously not enough. Yes, the male lead asked Zirfei to use the spear to cooperate. While they were attacking, the male lead didn't sit idle, although he was almost stepped on. But after reacting, he immediately used a water ball to block the dog's mouth. Then the three girls also took the opportunity to swarm. In this way, under the repeated attacks of everyone, even the strong Go-To couldn't withstand it and fell. But just as everyone was about to take a break, Shirley felt a strong breath approaching. Lucilia. She realized that the person was a demon of her own kind. Although the demon's title was lower than hers, but his level far exceeded everyone present. Because the male lead disrupted his plan, the demon decided to kill everyone present, saying that the demon released a group magic. Shurfi quickly opened a barrier for defense. The demon commented that the barrier was quite good. Then he took out his proud magic sword. In an instant, he came behind everyone. Such an attack speed made the male protagonist feel bad, telling Shirley not to lift the barrier, and the others seized the time to output. However, what no one expected was that the demon's defense was outrageous. It still has a little blood after taking all the attacks. It seems that only by having Zirfei and Lucilia team up again to defeat the demon, the three girls said not to worry about them. Although the demon's attack is fast, but they will find a way to deal with it. The male lead agreed and asked Zirfei to lift the barrier and release skills with Lucia. But unexpectedly, even so, the demon was unscathed and even teleported to the male lead to launch a slash. Fortunately, the samurai girl arrived in time to block it. Seeing this, the demon raised his right hand and flew the samurai girl, and then slashed at the male lead under his feet. However, the demon never thought that the male lead's magic sword's ability is to cause damage by imagination. His magic sword was completely broken as soon as it touched. The demon immediately attacked the male protagonist. The male protagonist deployed an ice attribute shield. He blocked 2.5 attacks before being knocked to wall. The two attendants were also angered by this. They used their joint skills again. Seeing this, the male protagonist took the opportunity to return. Then he sneaked around and attacked with the magic sword. With the amazing ability of the magic sword, no matter how high the demon's defense is, he was cut in half. The demon cursed the male lead as a sneaky guy, and immediately released a healing spell. This directly stunned the male protagonist. He had never seen any boss can heal itself. However, the demon ignored the male lead's complaints and punched the male protagonist out 2.5 meters. The three girls wanted to protect the male lead, but the demon killed them with a teleport. Shirley wanted to help, but the demon grabbed the spear with one hand and then threw Shirley away. Almost everyone lost the ability to move. Only Lucia was still able to fight. She asked the male lead to take the girls and run away. She'll hold off the demon. The male lead wanted to help, but he searched his backpack but found nothing was useful. At this time, Lucia couldn't resist and was knocked into the male lead. Suddenly, the male lead saw a new skill pop up. Timekeeping beauty can consume the life of the contractee to briefly enhance her ability value. And the male protagonist didn't care about his own life. Only by using skills can he have a chance to win. At first, The demon didn't take the enlarged Lucilia seriously, but the attack only produced smoke without causing damage, so the dissatisfied demon launched another attack. But the result was still smoke without damage. After all, he never thought that the mature version of Lucifer is a Viscount-level demon was not something he could, the lowest level demon, can compare. So to punish the other party, she hurt the male lead. Lucilia directly released a god-killing magic. In an instant, the demon was instantly killed, but the male lead's health was almost depleted, and he fainted directly. Seeing this, Lucifer immediately cancelled the skill. Then everyone recovered. Their levels have increased a lot. Then it was time to collect the loot. The Cerberus dropped a fist-sized green magic stone, while the demon turned into a minion card. The male protagonist asked the three girls what to do with it. The samurai girl said that you defeated the demon, so the ownership of the card should be yours. The male protagonist was going to summon it, but the attributes of this card overlapped with Lucilia. Lucilia was very disdainful after hearing that. She is the top-level demon, while this card is the lowest level. Just sell it directly. The male lead felt something was wrong. They all told him to sell it, but he chose to summon it. However, it was the same as the previous two summons. There was no adult demon. All he got was a child version of the demon, which made the male protagonist regret it. But there is no regret medicine in this world. Whoever summons it is its master. Even if others get the card, they can't use it. But fortunately, the magic box is also priceless. The guild's acquisition price is as high as 24 million. The three rich girls didn't care at first, even if they gave them all to the male lead. But the male lead insisted on dividing it into 4. After all, it was defeated by everyone's power together. The man never expected that. The third divine servant he summoned turned out to be a shrunken version, because Baleria's level was reset to 1. He couldn't maintain his previous form, but all the swordsmanship knowledge he had learned was still there. Even with the cheapest weapon, a crowbar, he can easily solve the monsters on the 8th floor. The male protagonist was shocked. It was much stronger than him, but Lucifer saw the difference. After shrinking, Baleria is much slower than before. He didn't exert his original strength, but the male lead said it didn't matter. Instead, he is now more curious about Baleria's healing skills, whether it can still work. So the male protagonist frantically consumed his stamina. He consumed his health bar to only a thin line. Belial immediately used dark healing. Dark light emerged from the male lead's body, but his blood bar didn't recover much. Belial explained that the main function of dark healing is to heal wounds, and then restore physical strength to a level that does not lead to death, which made the male lead a little disappointed. He still wanted to use dark treatment to heal himself, to offset the side effect of Lucia's ultimate move, which will consume his own health points. Then everyone returned to the 7th floor. Because they just leveled up, everyone gained a new skill. Xiaoguang's new magic is ice trap magic, while the samurai girl gained a skill that consumed a lot of magic. A killing skill. One strike can solve the frozen iron golem. You know that, which they could only defeat in a group before. And the pink-haired girl's new skill is also very useful. Facing a group of stone golems, he can create illusions to delay time, and then commanded the familiar to use the new group damage skill. The efficiency of the new monster is not ordinary, and the male lead Shurfi also gained a new skill. When they reached the depths of the 7th floor, the male lead asked Shirley to use her new skill, Battle Maiden Song. It's a general buff. As Shirley sang, the male lead felt full of strength. The previously agile goblins now moves as slowly as a turtle in front of him. The male lead picked up the magic sword and killed them one by one. As for Baleria, he can even pierce 2 with a crowbar. As for Lucifer, she can cast magic much faster. After testing the new skills, Belial was a little disappointed, because he had always been a demon knight before. He has no suitable weapon at all, and he couldn't exert his original combat power. After hearing this, the male protagonist immediately went to the store and bought a chaos sword, which made Baleria cry. It was great to have a new weapon. After thanking the male lead, Belialia was going to sharpen the newly acquired sword. So, he directly found the most difficult monster on the 7th floor. and then showed his strength. All of them were killed with one strike. And without any injuries. The male lead was stunned on the spot. It turns out that Valeria is so powerful. So he wanted to ask Valeria to teach him swordsmanship. As the male lead's servant, Belial immediately agreed. If possible, he would like to start now. However, the male lead said it might not be possible today, because he wanted to go home and sleep early. After all, tomorrow morning, he has to go to the samurai girl's house for a study session. Shirley and Lucilia were jealous when they heard that. The male lead had no choice but to apologize, and promised to ask Valeria about swordsmanship next time. The next day, the male lead and his two best friends arrived at the samurai girl's house. They wondered if they had come to the wrong place. Xiaoguang and the pink-haired girl arrived. They said this was the right place. The moment they entered, the male lead was shocked again, because it was too big inside, and they couldn't even see the houses in the distance. The pink-haired girl said they would take the car up first. As for the three men, they can climb the hero slope. After torturing for 2.5 minutes, the male protagonist and others finally arrived at the samurai girl's home. Yanlai. The samurai girl's family is a long historic martial arts dojo. There is a waterfall for inner exercise, a dojo for honing consciousness, and a hero slope for physical exercise. Then they started a book club, and they also experienced the inner exercise waterfall. However, seeing his childhood sweetheart in a wet training suit, the male lead couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. When the reading session ended, the male lead was surprised to find that Xia Qingmei seemed to be getting closer to the rich women. Before they knew it, it was the weekend. They formed a team again to go to the dungeon. Shirley and Lucilia were jealous again. The male lead was helpless. He could only take out a bag of magic boxes to comfort his two attendants, since they had tried new skills before. Everyone was very confident. They were ready to rush to the 10th floor in one go. But before that, they still need to challenge the monsters on the 9th floor. They thought it would be the same as before. Every floor would be a difficult, but when Shirley used the Battle Maiden song, everyone got a powerful buff. Xiaoguang quickly chanted ice trap magic, and the male lead Valeria and the samurai girl charged together, each of them with one strike. The monsters on the 9th floor were all defeated. This made Lucia very unhappy. You just finished it like this. I didn't even have a chance to play. Since the 9th floor was so easily solved, everyone planned to challenge the 10th floor in one go. But just as they were about to reach the exit, Xiaoguang suddenly fell ill and fainted after vomiting blood. But just then, later they took Xiaoguang to the hospital. It was only then the pink-haired girl revealed that Xiaoguang was terminally ill, and the reason why he knew, it goes back to 2.5 years ago. Once the pink-haired girl was a famous Gurjin Magic the Gathering Queen. She dominated with her expensive deck. She thought there was nothing interesting in this world, until Xiaoguang suddenly appeared and wanted to play against him. During the game, Pink Hair accidentally found that Xiaoguang's deck was similar, but his deck was full of rare paid cards, which couldn't be easily imitated by others, unless Xiaoguang was as rich as her. However, his style is offensive. Xiaoguang is a defensive counterattack deck. As expected, Fan Mao easily won this round. After the game, Xiaoguang confessed that he was his fan, so he wanted to use the same deck to fight against him. Pink Hair was very happy, but she thought her deck wasn't suitable for Xiaoguang, so he wanted to help Xiaoguang build a deck that suits him. So since then, Fan Mao no longer felt bored with life. Every day with Xiaoguang was happy, until one day, they decided to participate in an offline doubles team event. But unexpectedly, thanks to their luxurious paid card decks, they finally won the championship. They thought they could be happy forever. But unexpectedly, Xiaoguang suddenly fainted. Only after the incident did he know from Xiaoguang's parents. Xiaoguang actually suffered from that would cause organ failure, which is difficult to cure with current medical technology. The doctor also said that if Xiaoguang fainted again, he might not survive the next new year. And Xiaoguang is a sensitive child. He knew his condition for a long time. The reason why he seemed fine on the surface, it was all because of the drugs to suppress the disease. And the maze also gives him ability bonuses. so he can maintain his mental and physical strength. The old father only knew at this moment. Xiaoguang said that he would go to the amusement park with them on weekends. But he actually went to the maze. The male lead doesn't understand why he is weak. He still went to the maze, but he didn't know that since he knew Xiaoguang was terminally ill, Fan Mao found out that the labyrinth would drop a rare universal medicine. But unexpectedly, Xiaoguang suddenly escaped from the hospital. He knew that Pink Hair definitely wanted to go to the maze, and Fan Mao saw that Xiaoguang would definitely go with her. But he didn't want Xiaoguang to go to such a dangerous place. Xiaoguang had different ideas. If he can find the universal medicine, it can promote medical research. Meanwhile, those in the same situation as him can also benefit. Therefore, he didn't want to push all this on Feng Huang alone. Pink Hair had no choice but to agree. And Xiaoguang is also very happy. After all, this is the only thing he can do now. If he successfully finds the universal medicine, he can become the hero of those patients tortured by the disease. Although he was also a patient, he puts others before himself. Xiaoguang is such a person, so Fan Mao couldn't bear to leave him behind. Just like Xiaoguang did, Fan Mao also wants to be Xiaoguang's hero. This is the only thing he can do now. The male lead always feels like he has heard this before, but couldn't remember. Then, the samurai girl and the male lead expressed their desire to help. They originally thought the universal medicine was just a urban legend, but since they all believed it, the male lead also wanted to see the real face of the potion. So, the team first came to the maze's 10th floor desert map. Seeing monsters appear, the male lead asked Zirfei to sing the battle song first, to boost everyone's morale. Then he arranged for the pink-haired girl and the samurai girl to deal with the camel monster, and he dealt with the one in the middle. At this time, Valeria volunteered to fight. Seeing this, Luciaria instantly became jealous. She also wanted to show her strength with her main account. The male lead refused on the spot. If he uses this trick, his health bar can only last for 2.5 minutes. Seeing the monster approaching, everyone immediately separated. The pink-haired girl used her illusion skill to control the monster, and commanded the minions to use skills to finish them off. As for the samurai girl, it goes without saying. Her killing skill, coupled with a group buff, even the 10th level monsters can be killed with one strike. Finally, the male lead's concern is that, as the former demon knight Valeria, even without skills, he can easily kill the monsters on the 10th floor. Belial picked up the dropped model. He said regretfully that there seemed to be no panacea. Hearing this, everyone was not disappointed. After all, the panacea is too rare. Even in the real world, it has only been auctioned a few times for hundreds of millions. The pink-haired girl said it was too hot here, although there is no sun, but exploring for too long in high temperature may cause heat stroke. The male lead asked his two attendants if they felt uncomfortable. Lucilia said that Hell's living environment is much crueler than this. And Shirfi and Hilfi thinks the heat is tolerable. Seeing this, Valeria was about to be jealous, asking why the male lead didn't ask her, but suddenly felt a powerful aura approaching. Everyone immediately separated and became vigilant. Shirfi was the first to confirm the location of the monster. It's underground, but the male lead didn't have time to react, and was directly tied up by the monster. Seeing this, Lucia was very excited. She thought she could finally take action, but was stopped by Shirfi. After all, if she uses Hellfire, the male lead would die on the spot. Seeing the emergency, the pink-haired girl, who is afraid of insects, she used the illusion skill on the sandworm. The sandworm was stunned for 2.5 seconds. Lucilia was about to use her skill, but she didn't expect Valeria to be faster, and rushed up instantly, and then cut the sandworm into several pieces. Bilialia wanted to take credit, but this made Lucia jealous. Several ghosts. Yeah, I thought. After finishing today's maze exploration, everyone went to visit Xiaoguang in the hospital, because he has an incurable disease and will die by year's end, which made the pink cat, his best friend, heartbroken. Although he was so sick, in order not to worry them, he always kept smiling. Then when they parted, Wuxia said that the hero he wanted to be was the one with great power, to protect the important people. Now, Xiaoguang is the important person he wants to protect. The male lead suddenly remembered these words, which he heard from his childhood friend's father, because someone must solve the mystery of the maze. So in order to benefit the world, Captain Kashima wanted to be the one to reveal the truth. So, the male lead sneaked back before the maze closed. He believed that with his lucky teacher, it would be easy to get the panacea. But what the male lead didn't expect was that he had just entered the 10th floor. He encountered a quicksand trap. However, for several days, he not only failed to find the legendary panacea, but it also affected his daily life. He was either late for school or slept in class every day. His best friend and childhood sweetheart saw his poor face, and they all advised her to have a good rest. Qingmei knew she was for Xiaoguang, but she couldn't ignore her own health. The male lead still didn't give up. He continued to enter the dungeon alone. It's the weekend. The male lead and his party had just entered the 11th floor, but they unexpectedly encountered a hidden boss. Fortunately, there was the group buff of Sherfi's song that made their attributes to the level where they could fight the boss. The boss suddenly attacked. Belial was the first to react and slashed the fireball with a sword. Lucilia took the opportunity and throws a Hell Knight fire, hitting damage and covering the boss's sight. The male lead and others took the opportunity to spread out the boss's hatred and instantly fell on the supporting Sylphie. Fortunately, the pink-haired girl used illusion magic to control the boss. The samurai girl immediately dealt damage, and with one strike, she broke the boss's stalemate. Seeing this, the pink-haired girl asked her familiar to join. As for the male lead, the sneaky guy also took the opportunity to circle under the boss. He directly used the magic sword, imagining the scene of the boss's collapse, and stabbed it down. The boss died on the spot, and the three of them also gained a lot of experience and gained a lot of levels. Lucilia was a little upset. They were also fighting hard, but why haven't they been upgraded yet? Then Shirley pointed to the magic box dropped by the boss. The male lead was a little disappointed, although it was the size of a palm, but it wasn't a panacea. However, after the exploration ended today, the male lead sneaks back too. However, as the male lead was about to move forward, he suddenly felt weak and fell down. Seeing this, Belialia advised the male lead to have a good rest and then come back to the maze. But the male lead said he was just to explore and will be back soon. The three attendants had no choice. They could only respect his opinion. The 12th floor of the labyrinth is a snowy world. The male lead regretted it as soon as he entered. There is no suitable equipment here, and he couldn't fight at all. But since he had come, he should go a little further to explore. Shirley said there was no monster's breath nearby, so the male lead and his friends went a little deeper. It was not unexpected that the male lead's lucky streak broke out again. Every time they came to a new level, he always encounters special events. And this time, he encountered was the out-of-control rampage that bothered all adventurers. Shirley immediately opened the barrier, but it couldn't last long. The male lead directly carried Zilphi and ran away. The rampaging boar was right behind them and couldn't get rid of it. In that case, they could only fight. The male lead asked Zirphii to remove the barrier, using the Battle Maiden song. The three of them got a group buff. Lucilia quickly released Hellfire, blasting the pig in the front to death. But the pigs behind kept coming. The male lead and Valeria rushed up directly. They slashed one after another. Seeing this, Shirley also stopped assisting, and then followed others to finish off. The two's upgrades boosted the male lead's confidence. He felt that he might be able to break into the 12th floor. But unexpectedly, the fatigue suddenly emerged today. He accidentally slipped and was knocked away by a boar. But it wasn't over yet. The boars behind also rushed up and kept attacking. Seeing the male lead's blood volume dropping rapidly, Belialia immediately slashed his way up to save him. Then Shirley asked Belelia to quickly and take the male lead away. Because of the recent upgrade, they both gained new skills. So they quickly picked up the magic box on the ground to replenish their stamina. Then they released new skills at the boar herd. On the other hand, Belialia uses dark healing on the male lead frantically, although it can barely maintain his life. But his magic power is almost exhausted, and he was about to collapse. The backpack dropped a potion at the right time. Seeing this, Zirfei immediately picked up the potion and fed it to him. But the manju in a dying state couldn't drink it. There was no choice but for Hilfi to drink it herself, and then fed it to the male lead. This worked very well, and Lucia was not to be outdone. Picked up another potion, and started to treat the male lead. Valeria was directly dumbfounded, but he also wanted to contribute, but was stopped by Lucilia. After all, they were enough. What are you doing as a man? The boy, who was fed 2.5 bottles of potion, finally woke up. The boy never thought that the panacea he had searched for so hard was on the weakest slime. Just killing a colored slime, he got a god-level card. The Elf Queen, as a healing minion, is far more valuable than a universal medicine. It turned out that not long ago, after the male lead was rammed, he also left a psychological shadow. It wasn't until now that he realized his childhood sweetheart didn't want him to go to the maze, because she was afraid that he would be in danger. So the male lead decided to retire and stop venturing into the depths of the maze. But his childhood sweetheart knew that he would regret this decision. To help Xiaoguang, he couldn't give up. With the encouragement of his childhood friend, the male lead's mentality gradually improved. Soon he came up with a good idea. Although rare items are usually in the deep maze, but if, as the samurai girl said, different, the male lead has a different lucky teacher. The left and right guardians are the best proof. So the male protagonist thinks that the slime might also drop the panacea they need. So the group changed their strategy. They started hunting desperately on the first floor. To increase efficiency, even the male protagonist's two best friends joined the team. Time passed to Christmas Day. The protagonist and his friends came to the maze as usual. Sherfie sensed an unfamiliar smell, so she followed the trail. They found a colorful slime. To prevent the slime from escaping, the group quickly set up a surrounding net around. Although the combo of the left and right guardians didn't hit the slime, but now it has nowhere to run. Then they approached it step by step. They approached the slime little by little. After successfully blowing up the slime, they rushed into the hospital directly. Then they forcibly pushed Xiaoguang into the maze. Although they didn't get the universal medicine, but they got a Queen of Elves card. It belongs to the recovery type, which might be able to cure Xiaoguang's disease. Then Xiaoguang summoned it, but because its level is only 1, Titania couldn't cure Xiaoguang's disease either. Just when everyone was desperate, the 5 sisters suddenly realized that Titania just said she couldn't cure him, which means that she could heal Xiaoguang to a certain extent to save himself. In this way, under the treatment of Titanina, although Xiaoguang's terminal illness was not cured, he has reached a state where he can walk normally. The pink-haired girl is very happy. Her best friend finally recovered, although it's temporarily fine. But Titan's skill can only keep Xiaoguang alive for 1 year. To completely solve it, they must find the panacea, or increase her level, to reach the level where she can use the world tree. Skills which can cure physical abnormalities once can cure physical abnormalities. So the male protagonist and others didn't waste time. They directly started to continue the challenge. They came to the 13th floor. Facing the mighty dragon, the male protagonist is not afraid at all. After all, there is now an invincible healer. It's almost impossible to die.